All right, guys, so we're getting started with our next talk. Please welcome Mr. Max Sherwood to tell us a bit more about Obol Distributed Validators. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Building up from that.
Trying to figure out where to stand. I guess I'll stand over here. Yeah, hey everybody. The title of the talk is Obol Distributed Validators. What are they? How to get involved? Is the clicker working? Okay. Yeah, my name is Max Sherwood. I would describe myself as an enthusiast of now 10 years, I guess, in the crypto space, and also a validator myself. So for DV Labs, previously Obol Labs, I am a content and communications manager, and I also co-founded a small validator company called H2O Nodes over 2 years ago now, so I have some first-hand experience. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the problem with staking. By the way, everything is Ethereum in this talk, so when we say staking, I mean Ethereum staking. We're going to talk about what are distributed validators. We're going to talk about distributed validators in the wild and how to get involved. So a quick poll for the audience. Who has ever run a node or a validator before on any network? Oh, fantastic. How about Ethereum? Has anyone run an Ethereum node or validator? Nice. Okay, cool. Awesome. So yeah, let's talk about the problem with Ethereum staking. The rules. So you need 32 Ethereum tokens per validator, which is around 70,000 euros, so quite a lot. When you're online, you get rewards. When you're offline, you get penalties. And the worst thing you can do is double sign, and that gets you slashed for 1 ETH per validator. So 1 out of your 32 ETH is taken away from you, and your validator basically gets kicked off the chain. And I think you even get offline penalties while your validator is shutting down. So that's kind of the worst thing you can do. Ethereum staking today, if you're a solo staker, so you're running at home on a machine, or you're renting a machine in a data center, typically, if you have a small number of validators, you're just running them all on a single machine. If you're a professional node operator, let's say that you're one of the, the Lido curated set operators who's running 10,000 validators, then you're probably running, let's say, up to 1,000 validators per machine, so maybe you have 10 machines. And the problem is, if one of those machines goes down, all the validators associated with that machine go offline, and you start earning penalties for that. But the temptation is there to create a backup system or a failover system. If your primary machine goes down, there could be a secondary machine coming up, and then you don't have those offline penalties anymore. The problem is if the primary machine comes back online, then you're having the same validator key running in 2 places, and that's how you get slashed. And that's, again, the worst thing you can do. So basically everyone says, just be offline, don't worry about the offline penalties, don't try and build something fancy, because it's not worth the risk. Even like Figment, one of the biggest node operator companies, they use this term safety over liveness. So they are telling you, hey look, if we're offline, we'll reimburse you, but we're not going to try and do something fancy that'll get us slashed. So it is a bit of a tricky exercise, Ethereum staking, especially if you want to achieve 100% uptime. And even the pros struggle with this. So this is just the Lido forum. Nothing against Lido, but the Lido forum is actually one of the more transparent places where you can see node operators publishing every time they have a problem, because they usually reimburse Lido if they have significant downtime. And I think I just searched for downtime or incident, and tons of results come up. And these are the professionals, right? So it's definitely not easy to do this job well. Also, the entire network has a pretty big risk. If there's a bug in one of the clients that causes you to go down, well, you're probably not the only one going down. Probably everyone else running that client is also going down. And if it's something like Prism, where over a third of the network is running Prism, then the entire network will have a finality event issue, which is like what we saw on the left here in May of last year, where over a third of validators were not functioning properly. And so the chain did not stop, but it also could not finalize transactions, because if there's more than a third of validators offline, then you can't get that 2/3 threshold that you need. There was another bug with Nethermind in January of this year that took down about 8% of validators. That didn't really cause any network-wide issues, but was still, not ideal. So client diversity is also kind of a big topic. If there's a bug in a major client, it can really cause harm to the network. So you've got, as a node operator, you've got hardware issues to worry about, you've got data center issues potentially to worry about, and you've got client bugs to worry about. So this is why we're really saying that Ethereum's consensus needs to scale. Interest in staking in ETH is growing. We've got over 1 million validators now on chain. We've had 13 million ETH flow into staking since the Chappelle upgrade, but still only 28% of ETH is staked, right? So that could be double. So there's a lot more room for growth here, but there's some pretty significant issues, like I said. We've got an ETH ETF live as well. So there's risks around key security, node resiliency, correlated slashing, operator centralization. So Ethereum works today, but it's definitely not as resilient and robust and secure as it could be. And we need that to scale consensus. So our solution is distributed validators, or DVs. So if you're familiar with a multi-sig wallet, so for example, normal wallet will have one person who has the key. They can make transactions whenever they want. A multi-sig, you could have, let's say, 3 out of 4 people need to sign off on a transaction to make a transaction. And this is pretty similar. So there's, in this example, 4 nodes running one Ethereum validator or a group of validators together. And only 2/3 of them need to be online. So 4 nodes, you can have one node go offline for maintenance, doing an update, doing hardware upgrades. The data center goes down unexpectedly, whatever it is, the validator stays online. And you're not risking slashing because each node has a key share on it. None of the nodes have the entire private key, the entire validator key on the node. So also if someone hacks into your machine, steals your key share, they can't hold you ransom, they can't slash you because you need 3 of 4 in this example to carry out those duties. Another popular configuration is 7 nodes, because then you only need 5 out of 7, so you can have 2 nodes go offline. So this is really a pretty new piece of technology that we think is going to have a pretty big impact. The way that it works is we've built a middleware client called Charon. It's a DV middleware client that sits between the validator and the consensus client. So in a typical node for Ethereum, you've got your execution client, you've got your consensus client, and you've got your validator client. The validator client has the validator key and is doing all of the validator duties. And our middleware sits between those final 2 clients. So it does not actually do the validator duties itself. It just passes that on to the validator client, and the validator client still carries out its normal duties. The validator client doesn't even know that it's part of a distributed validator. So that's a difference to SSV, for example. So yeah, if you think about how a DV could help scale consensus, well, it enables validators to be run on more nodes. Each node can have a unique client stack, so if there's a bug with a single client, it only affects one node, and it doesn't affect the entire validator. You can have more operators because each of these nodes can be run by a different party, so you can have 4 different people together validating. You can have more geographies because each node can be run in a different geography, more infrastructure types, each node can be run on a different type of hardware. So you're really baking in, diversity and decentralization directly into a single validator, which has not been possible before. So where are we at currently? We've got 1.5 billion that is committed to run on DVs. A lot of that is coming from Lido and EtherFi. Lido is ramping up their simple DVT module currently. We've got 175 operators running on mainnet already in 35 plus countries. And Charon 1.0 is live, which is like the long-term support version. And DVs have been live on mainnet for 18 months already before 1.0. So I would say Charon is quite mature by this point. And yeah, it's time to start scaling onto mainnet. So hopefully that was kind of a fast run through, but hopefully that made sense. And now for the fun part, how can you get involved? So we've kind of coined this term squad staking, which is kind of the evolution of solo staking in our mind. So you can get together with 3 other people, 6 other people, 9 other people, and run a validator together. Why would you do that? Well, the first advantage is obviously lowering the barrier to entry. So you don't need 32 ETH anymore. You can split that up 4 ways, 7 ways, 10 ways. It doesn't even need to be in equal amounts. So you could have 1 whale and 3 shrimp. You're also getting support from peers because now if you have a problem staking, you're going into Discord and hoping someone answers your questions. But if you're in a cluster with several other people, you're kind of all in the same boat. You're all supporting each other. So that's really good. And it promotes decentralization. Like I explained earlier, the validator is much more robust than before. If you don't want to jump into mainnet, we have testnet. We have a credential that we award to people who have demonstrated good performance on testnet, and that credential is also being used by Lido and other liquid staking pools to determine who they should onboard. So squad staking is fantastic for people wanting to stake from home, different teams, universities, communities. We're seeing all different types of groups coming together. We're seeing node operators being onboarded to Lido and EtherFi, who are running at home. And this is possible because of distributed validator technology. So yeah, if you want to get involved, hardware is cheap. The hardware requirements are not any higher than they are for Ethereum, so they're quite low. You can grab a NUC on eBay for like $150, throw some RAM and an SSD in it. You can rent a machine for $30 or $40 a month. So yeah, hopefully this does not hold you back from running as part of a distributed validator cluster. And yeah, if you just want to be part of this movement to transitioning to distributed validators, you can also just stake on distributed validators. You don't have to run a node. There's a couple different products live with distributed validators that allow you to stake. So that's Stakely, Chorus One, and Mellow all have products live today. Yeah, that's it pretty much. I'm trying to wrap up here to stay on time and leave time for questions, but we do have a community call coming up. Check out our Discord, discord.gg/Obol, or you can fill out a form to get in touch and we can try and put you together with other people who are looking to squad stake and looking for partners to run validators with together. Yeah, our Twitter is Obol_collective, and that's about it. So thanks for your attention.
Perfect. I think we have enough time for 3 questions if possible. So does anyone have a question?
Questions?
Perfect.
When Solana or other chains?
When Solana? Yeah, I mean, we are on Gnosis chain. There's testing happening on Gnosis chain already. That's in quite early stages, but obviously Gnosis is like super similar to Ethereum, right? So that shouldn't be too difficult. We've talked about Solana internally. I don't think there's a need for it on Solana for a couple different reasons. So yeah, I mean, there was also talk about Cosmos, but that's also not really happening. So for now, it's just Ethereum and Gnosis, yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Or perhaps, if you can elaborate, why don't you think there's a need at Solana?
So there's no slashing on Solana, right? So the backup thing, like there's a lot of professional node operators who run hot backups. So that's not as big of an issue. The hardware requirements are also super high, so the barrier to entry, like we couldn't help reduce the barrier to entry for home stakers because it's already quite high, but at the same time, there's no minimum active stake, so you don't need 1,000 Solana to stake. You can stake with like 1 Solana. So it's it has different like pros and cons compared to Ethereum, and it doesn't seem like distributed validators would add that much value to Solana because yeah, there's no minimum active stake, there's no slashing, and I would say the biggest barrier is just the hardware cost.
But how about now with Firedance? It's going to reduce the hardware cost.
We'll see. I mean, the new client should be faster, but I don't know if it's going to reduce the hardware requirements. I mean, we'll see, but it's still early days, right? Firedancer's on testnet with like 15 node operators or something, so maybe we'll check back in a year.
Perfect. So I think that's everything. Thank you very much, Mr. Sherwood. Thank you for your time.